next year we might, and our group qualified for a prize, so it it raised some money, but then earned a $5,000 prize on top of the money it raised. Um, so
There's a guy, I forget his name, the COO of Hill Health. He came very buttoned down the whole time he's there, and he's about to leave. He said, "You told me I had to sing to come on the Great Gifts." I said, "Okay." Then he starts cracking up. He had, because he remembered telethons when we were kids at Jerry Lewis. I don't know if you remember those. He brought Lou Rawls, who always sang on the telethons. And he brought "You'll Never Find It," and he really got into it.
He could sing it?
Yeah, he was singing "You'll Never Find It," Lou Rawls. He had to smile, like he was saving that up the whole time.
Oh, he was ready.
All right, we're ready to
Ready for you
roll.
people.
all right, we're live.
Showtime.
Okay, so now this is my. How do I get to this? Where's this? This.
Hello and welcome to Dateline New Haven. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make New Haven tick. Good morning to New Haven Mayor Tony Harp. It's a little chilly today, but we got the sun out, and that makes all the difference, right?
That's all that matters.
So
Good
we got
morning, Paul.
We got the sunshine outside, we got the sunshine inside.
That's right.
Mayor Harp is here in the studio for her regular Mayor Monday checkup on what she and we are up to in the New Haven community. So join the conversation. Call us at 203-872-7ELM, 203-872-7356. You know what else? If you're watching this on Facebook Live, which, as I understand, people don't really watch it on Facebook Live. They listen on Facebook Live, but they're pretending to work. You can just give up on the whole work thing and type in a question for Mayor Harp there, and Harry Gross, our station manager, will be there to take the question. Today's program is made possible in part thanks to Bertram Moses and Devlin PC, and from Gateway Community College in downtown New Haven. Thanks, Gateway, and thank you, Mayor Harp, as always, for coming in.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Paul. You seem like you're in a good mood today.
I am. Monday morning, when you come in and we start doing this, I always feel good for starting the week. It's a nice way to start the week. Not always happy about waking up first thing Monday, but this gets me going. So you were just going to Hill House High School, but I don't think you were in class. I think you were there for an event,
Right.
and you were there right before you came here. What was going on at Hill House High School today?
Well, there is a career technical program that had started at the beginning of the year at Hill House High School, and is a pre-apprenticeship program for young people. And today we're celebrating 200 hours, them completing 200 hours. And it's a really interesting program because it's in conjunction with the Laborers Union. The 200 hours that they achieved that will be recognized today will be hours that can carry over to the apprenticeship program that they have. I think it's right outside of Pomfrey or in Pomfrey, Connecticut. They'll all get a chance.
Pomfret?
Pomfret.
The one all the way up in the northeast corner?
Yeah, the northeast corner.
But I don't know all the names. There are 169 towns, and I still don't know all the names. I
And
always hear everyone's.
you're right. It is
So there might be a
Pomfret.
Pomfrey. I'm not. Don't
No,
go with me on
and,
this one.
You know, listen, I don't know all the names either.
You might have to learn them soon, but that's a different subject.
Pomfret.
Okay.
And so so they're getting trained. They're getting trained in the math. You know, you have to take a bit of an exam in order to get into the apprenticeship program.
And what are these apprenticeships for? What kind of jobs?
Laborer work on construction sites.
Which we have a lot of construction work in New Haven. So I guess the idea is that all the opportunities opening up with New Haven's good economic times when it comes to construction, we want to share those opportunities with people who live here.
Sure, and when these young people graduate, they can go directly to the apprenticeship program. And as an apprentice, I think you spend 300 hours in class, and then 1,000 hours on the job, and you get paid while you're on the job. It's really a good.
So the idea is that while you're still in high school, you can get started on that process by taking this course at Hill House.
Absolutely.
And it counts toward it. Now, this gets to a larger issue that you and I have been talking about since you ran for mayor first in 2013. I remember you were at the Elks Club with Garrett Tinney at the firefighters, Black Firefighters group. And their idea then, they were talking to you about, we care a lot about New Haven Promise, we care a lot about kids going to college, and we got to do a lot of that in the city, but a lot of kids aren't going to college.
Right.
And there are a lot of kids who could do very well in careers that don't require college or may require college and a little something else. So they started a program that I think you've been supporting about having kids in high school start the process of becoming cops or firefighters. That's
Right.
a different kind of apprentice, and some of the work they do there counts toward the certifications they later need.
Exactly. So it's the Law and Public Safety Academy, our section. They don't call them academies anymore.
Kind of things you fight about are so funny in New Haven. When it comes down to it, if you just say section rather than academy, everybody's fine. Yeah.
So it's well, but at any rate, and actually, Bill Carbone, who helped us develop that, there's a collaboration between Hill House and University of New Haven and their public safety programs. They have fire, they have police, they have forensics, and kids in that area at Hill House will be exposed to all of those things and can actually get college credit from University of New Haven.
Excellent.
So
some of these kids will go to college, and they have to go on a career like that. For labor, as you pointed out before, nowadays it's a little different from the old days. You definitely got to have your math down. You got to have some of those skills. But you don't have to go to a 4-year college.
You don't have to go to a 4-year college, and you don't have to pay for your training. You actually get paid to be trained.
And then you also have another program you started with the Youth Step program. We'll get some of those kids who you're keeping in school,
Right.
who might have been kicked out, find ways to keep in school, and then you have this after-school program that's similar to the Educational Center, the arts program, sort of a second high school you go to in the afternoon. But this is getting ready for trades, plumbers, electricians. And you make decent money. It's work that's always going to be needed.
Great money.
And
We heard today that you make double the minimum wage, and then after you
in construction.
as a laborer in construction,
Mhm.
and as an apprentice, not as a journeyman, you make even more then. And then after you've done your first, I think he said 1,000 hours of work, you get a 10% raise on top of that.
So it's a journeyman when you get double the minimum wage?
No, you're an apprentice,
As an apprentice, you get double minimum wage.
right?
Then after 1,000 hours of work,
You get another 10% increase.
and then you're a journeyman? I don't know what these phrases
You know
are.
what? No, after about 4 years, you become a journeyman.
What is a journeyman?
That means that you're no longer an apprentice.
So you apprentice for 4 years.
I think you are, yeah.
And then I remember we had a show up here at the Greater New Haven Business and Professional Organization, which is sort of like the Black Chamber of Commerce in town. I forget the woman's name. Her father had been in construction. She has a contracting company here, and that there are opportunities as well eventually with some help in terms of all the paperwork and licensing, to run your own contract, subcontracting stuff.
Absolutely.
And that's where a lot of the opportunity needs to trickle down.
Well, and I think that the interesting thing about New Haven is that we have very strong laws and practice that encourage small business participation on these construction sites, so that there really are a number of opportunities for people either as a worker, an apprentice, or as a small business owner.
Mm-hmm. And you're listening to Mayor Monday on WNHH Radio, your home for community radio. 103.5 FM, live streamed at newhavenindependent.org. You can give us a Facebook Live tweet here. I guess somebody called tweet there, sorry. Facebook Live questioning for the mayor, or call us at 203-872-ELM, 203-872-7356. You were busy this weekend.
Yes,
The busiest I get is reading about all things you're doing, writing the stories, and my reporters are.
right,
And one of my reporters was with you at what looked like it was not just another ribbon cutting.
right.
First of all, they didn't cut a really ribbon. It was made out of hair extensions, which was my favorite part. But
But it was red.
wasn't that funny?
That was funny. That was clever.
So telling people about Kay Smith Holness, who's a leader in the West Indian community.
Right.
And she also has a popular hairstyling place that has a new home, bigger quarters at a great strategic location, which is where Munson and Henry Street split off near Science Park.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the border of Dixwell and New Hallville, which made from some fun jousting yesterday about which neighborhood's claiming the place. I would argue there's a foot in each neighborhood, depending which
Oh, that's
side
a
you
good
get
point.
in.
Yeah.
You split the baby in half. And they had a ribbon cutting for this new place. G Cafe had tried to make it go outpost there. It really didn't kind of work. They never had a kitchen going, kind of small space. But it looks like maybe the perfect space for K's to be expanding into this new area. And it was a festive day that it sounded to me, and tell me more about this, you were not just celebrating a local business doing well, which is great,
Hmm.
but a woman who's a pillar of the West Indian community and also seems to have quite a following, including you,
Sure.
for people getting their hair done there.
Hmm. Well, she's a phenomenal community leader, very active. She was active in that program that I believe Graustein has, that leadership fellowship program.
Yep. Graustein Emerging Leaders Program.
Right, and she has really, certainly shows that that program works, because she then started the Jamaican American Connection, and is works to support people of Jamaican American heritage in our community, make sure that they are active in our communities, make sure that that they have a place to go if there are questions, and so at any rate, it's she does a fantastic job. Plus, she's a great stylist too. So
What makes her a great stylist?
she's very creative, and she has, how all sort of innovative, creative people sort of have this inner vision. She has that. She knows what looks good on other people. So
How about conversation? I find people who do hair, some of them are amazing at conversation. They can pivot depending who the customer is and make a connection with them. At least this guy go to Bernard. I don't know if you go to him. There's Bernard, who I hair cutting on High Street. The best part of the haircut is the conversation.
well, and the best part of going to K's too are the conversations we have in the beauty shop. People from all over town, and a lot of times we get a lot of Yale students too, sometimes their parents, and we have really interesting conversations. Kay's mother, Yvonne.
Well, I couldn't believe that was her mother. They looked like twins. I kept looking to make sure it was identified correctly as mother in the caption. I noticed the earrings were different. They wore the same T-shirt. I meant it. This morning I almost changed. I noticed the earrings were different. Yeah.
Well, she actually started a soup club on Friday nights. I can't go on Friday as much, but a whole lot of us would go on Friday nights just so we could have Yvonne's soup.
What's a soup club?
Well, that means she makes soup. She spends the evening before making wonderful different types of soups.
I do love that about soup. You can make a huge vat of really good soup,
Yeah.
and it goes a long way.
A long way, and it would have Jamaican vegetables in it that I don't know, I don't even know the names of them, but really wonderful things. Sometimes
A lot of root vegetables, right?
Yeah,
And
a lot
curry
of root,
spice.
absolutely. And so I knew that I had arrived when they let me stay.
Well, also when you go to get your hair cut, I know this kind of place where you quote, let your hair down, where people are very comfortable, relaxed, they're happy to be there, they talk about real stuff, fun stuff they care about. What's it like to be the mayor walking into a hair place? Does it change that vibe? Do people give you a hard time, or can you still just be one of them and be loose?
I think that one of the things that is really great about that place is that they just let me be one of them. Occasionally, if there's a complaint, I get to hear about it, but I would anyway. So.
Do you hear any complaints at ESUMS, the science
Everyone's
magnet
so...
school? They have a big new place in the campus of University of New Haven, that's New Haven Public School, and you had a official opening, right?
Yes, it was the dedication, and so nobody is complaining
Sunday.
about that school. It is so beautiful. As a matter of fact, the biggest complaint that I heard was, I know that Spigals is doing.
That's the architect, Barry Spiegels.
Right, is doing a. I don't know why I always call it. I always have a nice way of
What do you
ruining
mean?
people's names. But anyway,
I botch a lot of names. It's what you're used to saying. I mean, that's a Jewish name, so it's like I'm used to saying Spiegel. Believe me, I practiced wholeness this morning.
So anyway, I think the biggest complaint that I heard was that they're designing and building another building on campus, but it's not going to be as beautiful.
They do a really good job, yes.
They do.
They've done a lot. I think they did Edgewood School, if I'm not mistaken.
They
which
did.
I
That
think
was
a
their
great
first.
job.
Yeah.
They did after the Newtown massacre. They did, I think, was it the new school they built there, and they incorporated the healing. They do a lot of interesting work. And you also this weekend were at the Joint Management Team 25th anniversary.
Yes, and that's where I got my start in that neighborhood. I lived on Linwood Place for 35 years.
What
And
time goes.
I know, it really does. And it was always an active community. And as a matter of fact, I would say that it's the birthplace of community-based policing, because there was this real thought by some of my neighbors that the police really ought to respond to what it is that we wanted.
And that was before the official dawn of community policing, right?
That was before
and
the
then it
dawn.
became, and then the neighborhoods, we set up these 10 substations and management teams, we call them. It was kind of an odd name, management team. What it really means is where neighbors meet with cops, grew to something bigger. So I would argue that
And
that was,
LCI. And
yeah, now it's LCI. I would argue that it became the locus for neighborhood democracy. There's
Oh,
actually a good
good point.
system in New Haven now. You can never say who the people or who the community is, right?
Mhm.
But if you're a developer and you want to find out what people are think about, it's a genuine democratic way of testing the waters when you go to management team, because generally in those 10 neighborhoods, those are a lot of the people who do get involved in stuff. They're people who care, they know what's going on in the community, and they're going to let officials know about it. So they have this tradition that you're saying started in Dwight, I do remember that back then, where the neighbors meet there at the police substation to talk not just to their cops, but to government officials, and people want to do stuff in the community. I kind of felt so. So what was the party like for the 25th?
It was really great to see. It was great to see everybody. Some of the former alders were there,
Including you.
including me. Olivia Marsden was there. And the people who are still active, Linda, and what
Vanessa Burns was an older there.
she was an alder there.
Did you live on the block at the same time?
Yeah, actually, Vanessa lived upstairs for a while, and she was
Oh.
alderman. That's how I got interested in politics.
And Tony Williams wasn't there. The former mayor of Washington, D.C. was an older
No,
ward
he
too.
used to live, like right behind us.
On House Street.
Yep.
I remember there. And he used to deliver pizzas for Bulldog Pizza.
Right.
One night he told me that he got let's say, he was doing his rounds, let's say he found a way to enhance the experience. And he accidentally ate most of the pizza before he delivered it. But he did become the mayor of Washington, D.C. and do a very good job.
Yeah.
So I got off track. So what was the highlight of that party?
Well, it's just sort of looking back and thinking about the impact that community, the people in that community have had on the life of the city of New Haven. It was that group of people who then formed the Dwight Development Corporation that then helped pull together all of the resources to build a supermarket in a food desert, that then decided we need childcare and built the Montessori school there for
On Edgewood Avenue.
on Edgewood Avenue,
With a park that they take care of next door. I saw Lyndon Townsend, mayor, there last week,
right?
doing the plantings every year, and she runs the development corporation. She's out there raking and planting.
And so, I think that it's what I would say is a very successful community that really reflects what democracy means. You just can't be an innocent bystander in democracy. If you want things to change, you have got to get in there and get involved. You've got to, put your ideas out there, get support, and when you do that, you can actually change the face of your community.
Amen.
Yeah.
And you can also reflect on it by listening to Mayor Monday on WNHH Radio, your home for community radio, 103.5 FM, live streamed at newhavenindependent.org. I believe we have a call. Is it you know who? All right. Bob, welcome to Mayor Monday with Tony Harp. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah.
Another Dwight Alder.
That. Yes, and he's really great. I love Frank.
But wait a second, you missed an event.
Can you imagine?
I thought you even go to simultaneous events.
I know. What's that? Oh, that's great. Yeah. Well, he's a great guy.
So is he not running again, Frank?
No, he's running. He's just not working.
Oh, at Yale. He's retired from Yale. Okay. All right.
Sure. The African American Mayors Association. Represents 500 mayors
Wow.
and across the country, and has over 100 that are active.
Wow. That's quite a group.
Yeah.
So do you have a question? Do you have a question for Mayor Hart, Bob?
Um, well, I think I, yeah, I'm here. It's an interesting point that you make. What we've seen happen over time is that at the meters, in particularly the amount that, the tickets that we submit, that we give out, we've actually seen a reduction in the number of tickets, and I think it's because people actually pay the meters through their cards, and that's been a very effective way for people to pay, and has reduced the number of tickets that people get. And I think it's something that we could consider. But we are in such an interesting time with the resources that we have for this city. As you know, the whole budget blew up in Hartford. Over 53% of our property is non-taxable in our city. We have decided to take a look at it with the new revaluation. The amount that's non-taxable has gone up, and unless we get the kind of help that we need from the state, and everything is a little iffy right now, I think we're going to have to look at other ways. I don't know that we.
So you might have to raise. How much does it cost now if you get a parking ticket?
Well, it depends. Yeah, 20, but it could be more depending upon what you get a ticket.
So Bob, can I interject my opinion, Bob? I try to put myself in the position of the people I interview. So when I interview Mayor Harp, I say, what if I were the mayor, God forbid? And I think I'd want to charge more. I think it's a fine line. I think you need the revenue, and also we have a shortage of parking that people take advantage of. On the one hand, it's really important that you don't look for revenue by trying to give more tickets than you should. We've seen all over the country where especially poor people get slammed with extra fees and they end up in jail because they can't pay them because governments have quotas to make. So we don't want a situation where we try to make our money by giving people more tickets than we normally would, or trying to jam them up on something minor. And as Mayor Hart mentioned, they've done so much to make it easier. I use the credit card. And also, I think I'm not mistaken, you could even be at a restaurant and pay remotely. I could be wrong about that. So as long as you make it easy to comply with the law, so that we're not saying come into New Haven, then we're going to try to trick you and then give you an expensive ticket. I'm personally all for jacking it up. I wouldn't mind if they went to 30, 35 bucks this year, about something we're going to talk about later in this hour, about this new fiscal threat we have in the city. But Bob, it sounds to me like you're seeing it from the perspective of someone who hurts when he gets the ticket.
But we could be. We are still pretty much dependent upon the state. And so
he's right though that we're not broke. Remember, we always get penalized because we're the city that has a balanced budget.
But it's a very tenuous situation.
We don't want to get broke.
We don't want to get broke.
That's cool. Bob, did you have anything else you wanted to ask Mayor Hart? But thanks for that excellent question.
Well, they seem to constantly, once the weather breaks, do a lot of upgrades. I can't tell you how long, but maybe by next week I'll find out how long it's going to take. It's usually just a day or two.
All right, hey, Bob, thanks so much for checking in on Mayor Monday. Have a great week. And let's see if you can be the only person in New Haven next week who hits an event that Mayor Harp didn't make it to. Because I think he gets a little award on that. Okay, you touched on something, Mayor Harp. You're listening to Mayor Monday at WNHH Radio, your home for community radio, 103.5 FM. You talked about how there's this new threat to our budget. So last week, since we've been on the air, once again, there was a major new announcement about income tax revenues of the state falling far below what we thought. Basically, the rich people we're hitting in Fairfield County, and some of us think we can hit more, are paying like 40% less tax than they used to in just a few years ago. And I can't pretend to understand how that all works with hedge funds in the finance industry. But the bottom line is we are now looking at a $5 billion 2-year deficit. So right now in Hartford, they're putting together the state budget. We have to put together our city budget, finish it, before they're done legislating, and there's probably gonna be a special session, so we're gonna have to guess. One guess we made based on promises you got or assurances from both the governor and the head of the state senate is that we could count on a $31 million increase in state aid this next fiscal year. So you put together a budget that has in it $31 million in state aid, more than last year. How's that looking now? You were up at the Capitol with a bunch of mayors last week, right? You're going back this week for New Haven Day. A, is that the central question of this session for us? And B, how's that question looking as of this week?
Well, I don't think when the governor made did his budget that he expected one this year to the revenues to come in deficit, nor did he expect a projection over the next biennium to be $5 billion. It's
a lot of money. Well, it's 2 years, but that's basically a 2 year, close to $40 billion budget.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
1/8 of it.
Yeah. And so, in my discussions with people there, if we were just to live within that, they would have to, I heard today, actually reduce municipal funding by $200 million.
Instead of adding.
Right.
Why don't we get back to this in a minute, because it's a complicated question. We have another call from Joe Lynn. Joe Lynn, I'm not great on names either. Joe Lynn, you're on with Mayor Tony Harp. How you doing? Thank you for calling.
Good morning. How are you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Board of Education has its own personnel apparatus. It's different than ours unless it's a position that is in one of our local unions, like Local 3144 or Local 884. And there are some positions there, and those are civil service positions, and they get tested at our Personnel and Human Services Department. But the teacher positions, and I believe even the paraprofessional positions, all of those come through the New Haven Public School HR department.
Jolene, how come you're asking? Are you applying for a job? Do you have a 30? Are you represented by AFSCME Local 3144? Oh, 884.
884. Well, then you should really, certainly in terms of the policies and procedures that they have at the Board of Education, those would be monitored through their HR department. But your union should represent you through the city because you're 884.
So wait, I am so confused by this. And I realize, so it sounds to me that certain jobs, like the one Jolene has,
Mm-hmm.
actually work through both.
Right.
Because we have a different relationship with the Board of Ed, because I believe it's a state chartered agency.
Right.
So for instance, every year, Jolene, this is so complicated, not just for you. It's complicated for me as a reporter trying to figure this out after we learned it every year. The Board of Ed has a budget, right? And every other department in the city, when they have a budget, the mayor comes up with the budget, and then they go before the Board of Alders, and the Board of Alders goes through every line of that budget, and they'll say, well, you can have this, you can't have that. But the Board of Ed, when they go to the Board of Alders, all the Board of Alders can say, right, is yes to the whole thing or no to the whole thing, and then the Board of Ed runs its own budget as a separate agency. Am I saying this right?
Well, yeah, what the Board of Alders can do is to set a bottom line. And now what should happen is that with the general fund bottom line that's set by the Board of Alders and any special funds, then the Board of Education should set its budget. Um, and so, sometimes it happens that way and sometimes it doesn't because they often set a budget line item that in no way corresponds to the bottom line that is given by the, the Board of Alders. That's what happened this past
How
year.
can they do that?
It just happened
Well, now
because they are a separate organization.
and half their money comes from the state, right?
Approximately half of it does.
So now the Board of Alders, when they're approving the budget of a different department, let's say CEO or Public Works,
Right.
they'll approve a budget that includes state money in it, right?
No, most
They
of them,
won't?
no. Well, unless they will, yes, if it's payment in lieu of taxes, and that's state money.
But it's different for the Board of Ed. The Board of Alders don't vote on the state part of their budget, does it?
No, well, no. The way that I believe that it works is that the Board of Alders only votes on the general fund, the dollars that come from New Haven taxpayers.
Okay, and Jolynn, thank you so much for calling. Did this clear it up or did we make it more complicated? But it's also chartered by the state.
And the
So
state
it's
gives
different
it-
from other departments in the city, Jolynn. That's what makes it so complicated. Yes, it has to follow certain rules for certain people. It sounds like you're one of them because you're in a bargaining unit in the union. But the Board of Ed is actually, and so is the Housing Authority, even more so, I believe, because that's federally chartered. There are a couple of agencies that aren't a completely city department the way other departments are. Did I say that right?
No, and what happens is that we have an obligation to fund them, but we don't have authority over them. It's the Board of Education that has the authority. And in some cities, they are actually separate entities altogether. At least in New Haven. The city doesn't have the authority over the board. The board is its own authority.
Right, the mayor appoints the members of the board.
No, I appoint 4 of the.
Oh, that's right, we have 2 elected now.
We have elected members, and so the board is independent.
Okay. Well, Jolynn, thank.
Well, I should be over it, but they have a mind of their own sometimes.
Hey, Jolynn.
If it's a police officer, we have.
No, but also, Jolynn, I thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor Harp, the difference is that the Board of Ed has its own department that does a lot of testing for a lot of jobs, correct?
It does.
But it's not through 200 Orange Street, the Department
No,
of Human Resources.
honestly, you have a right to be confused by it, but look. It should be, well, the jobs themselves basically come under our HR department. You have your union who works with you and can work through some of the issues with Lisa Mack's HR department. But the overall authority, I believe, for our civil service jobs is the Civil Service Commission, which is under our HR. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, we are negotiating. We're in the process of negotiating with 884 right now, and I think we're very close. We're very close. Yeah.
Well, Joe Lynn, I hope you get a great contract, and I hope that you can navigate this maze of two human resources departments. Thank you. All right, we're going to root for you here. Thank you at Mayor Monday at WNHH Radio, your home for community radio, 103.5 FM. So, Mayor Harp, I was not feeling all happy about what you're telling upstate. They got this new $5 billion 2-year budget they're looking at. They started the session saying it looks like New Haven's going to end the session with $31 million more in aid than we had last year. What's your guess now? How much money do you think we'll end up with?
I really don't know. That's why I've been going to Hartford to try to figure out what can we at least argue that we can put in our budget. I'm very concerned that we could have a problem based upon the state revenues failing to materialize.
So, is there a plan B happening now? You're in the later stages of a budget. We've gone through almost all our budget hearings in New Haven on your proposed budget, which was based on solid information given to you from the state senate and the governor's office. Now the world has changed.
Right.
Is there a plan B being worked on now for $31 million less or $15 million less, or can we even see a cut in aid?
We could absolutely see a cut in aid. We wouldn't know though until they actually do a budget, and the real question is how soon will there be a budget done?
In truth, they're going to have it done after we do, right?
Well, they will, and so the real question for us is if I just go ahead and then try to cut, and I really don't have a lot of places that I can cut, then it's sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right. There goes all our bargaining chips, right?
Right. Exactly.
Right. So if they say, okay, New Haven showed they can do it. We already penalized them for not being broke like Hartford and Bridgeport. Now they even anticipated a cut. So what are you going to do?
I'm going to be sitting down with our Board of Auditors because, in all honesty, the budget itself is on their desk, and we'll be working out what we think is the wisest.
What if
course of
cities all
action.
got together? And maybe I'm overstepping my job as a reporter here. What if all the mayors got together and said, look, we're in an untenable position. We're supposed to do a budget before you do a budget.
Right.
So we're talking about such dramatic swings in what we might have. We can't just go raise taxes and then have you not give us the money because we raised taxes. We can't cut essential services. What if you were able to get a waiver to do your budget later?
I think that actually they passed a bill that would allow us to do it a little bit later.
Okay, do you think we might do that?
I think that our problem is that we have got to get our tax bills out to people so that we'll have resources to run the government on. So that we've got to make a decision by
May 31st, right?
Yeah, by May 31st, so that we can get everything in process.
What if we said, and again, I'm not advocating, I promise, pro or anti. What if we said, okay, that's going to be the tax rate, but we're passing this budget with the knowledge that we might be coming back with dramatic cuts or new revenue sources that don't involve taxes? Like maybe, back to Bob's call, maybe we have a plan of like parking fines going up this amount, and these cuts, maybe we're not going to announce them because we don't want to lose our bargaining position in Hartford. I guess you have to do that anyway. You make mid-year revisions in a
we
budget.
Would have to, I think that what I would like to see us do is just to pass the budget that we prepared and then be prepared to make adjustments if we have to.
Mm-hmm. Rather than tipping your hand.
Exactly, yeah.
Thank you. You're listening to Mayor Monday and Mayor Harp. We do have more active listenership today. We have 2 more questions coming in through Facebook Live.
Oh, okay.
Lorena Venegas, and I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, and I apologize. And if you were on the phone, I would ask you how to pronounce it better. Thank you to Mayor Harp for attending the Health and Wellness Fair at Brennan Rogers Magnet School. Any plans to make improvements to the community around the school? The area is isolated with transportation challenges, lack of employment. Thank you. So I think we're talking about the Brookside neighborhood.
Right.
It's actually 3 public housing developments that have been dramatically rebuilt. Those used to be ghettos, and they're now desirable housing. That's where we opened a fence that used to separate us from Hamden because people on Hamden were worried about our side of the fence. When you go there now, you look at the New Haven side of the fence, you feel like you're looking at Beverly Hills.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to Hamden, life has changed. But it is a very isolated area. There's not a lot of bus service. You have only, except for the fence into Hamden, You really have one road in and out of New Haven going past Southern there and all in the back of West Rock. So Lorena is thanking you for going to a health and wellness fair at Brennan Rogers, which is the school there, and asking you about any transportation plans.
So we are in the process of doing an overall transportation plan. We've been working on it for the past, I would say, 6 months. And I would go to our website, look at under transportation, traffic, and parking, and submit ideas that you have so that they'll be included in the.
Is that a citywide?
It is citywide. Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking, opening that, not for public transit, but opening that fence is huge.
Yeah.
Rather than having to drive miles around to get to Hamden, you just go right into Hamden, and whether you're going to a job or shopping on Dixwell's Magic Mile.
Relatively close to the Dixwell Avenue bus line, but one of the things that we want to do is to make sure, from a walking, I think it's
like a mile.
Yeah, well, that's not bad.
It's funny when you don't live somewhere, because I've walked it.
Uh-huh.
And when you don't live somewhere, it seems farther than if you live somewhere.
Right. So what I'm suggesting is that people that want to see our bus routes change, participate in that.
Oh, that one, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Now that you've been working on for a year, you got $1 million from the state, all crazy, right? Okay. So Lorena, I think what the mayor was talking about specifically was they have been working on changing the bus line routes.
Right.
And you're right. There's a new day with that open gate. And then we just heard from Doug Houselayden, who's the head of traffic and parking. Lorena, if you have a pen, Doug has talked about a place you could specifically put your comments about where bus rides are run and when not. Thanks for listening, Doug Houselayden. It's called Move New Haven, MOVE. Like, let's get a move on. MoveNewHaven.com. You sure it's .com, Doug? I wonder why it's .com and not .org.
I don't know.
Okay, so he says it's New Haven, MoveNewHaven.com. And Lorena, actually, if you're since you're on Facebook Live, Lorena, the link is right there. So you don't even have to write it down. If you're looking at us on Facebook Live, which you are, and thanks for posting a comment, just click on Doug's link that he put there. And you can look at what people are coming up with, and you can come up with ideas, and they do need your ideas. We need the ideas of people living there. It was thanks to the people at Rockview, which is also there. Through an article in the Independent, we found out about one place the bus couldn't go because of a narrow reconstruction by a bridge. And as a result, they would change the route there so people in bad weather are able to walk with the kids to the bus. So we do count. There's no better way. There's no substitute. You don't want the person downtown office. You don't even want the mayor in her office deciding what you need in Brookside to make the transportation better. We need to hear from you. So they got the link. We had another question come in from Facebook Live from Aaron Good. Does the mayor support the bulldozing of the New Haven Vision Trail by our pals at the Connecticut Department of Transportation?
No. No, we've I think.
Tell us what you really think.
These trails are really important to people, and and I think that I don't know, we've got to work on our relationship with the Department of Transportation.
Okay, so it's Understatement Monday. Okay, I love this story. It's so interesting to me because the Vision Trail, most people haven't heard of it. It's part of the issue. It goes right under the highway connection from I-95 to downtown, the Route 34 connector, the part of it that's still a tiny, 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 tiny highway. And it goes right where the railroad tracks are, where Water Street has just met State Street. You go onto Water, and to your right, if you're driving east, and it was very cool in 1995 when they did this. They created a path that you can go under the highway and quickly get to Long Wharf. Long Wharf always seems so far, and it's hard to get to unless you're in a car, and even a car is no fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then 95 year, the Special Olympics had their international games here. And they claimed it was going to bring all this wealth to the city and big crowds. Everyone stayed home. It turned out they brought nothing except the Vision Trail. And at 95 is when people started talking about making New Haven a better place to bike around and walk around. Now everyone's talking about it. They weren't talking about it in 95. Someone said, hey, here's a way we can get right to Long Wharf. There's this land that's not being used by the track. And it was so cool. You felt like you discovered a little secret garden about your city. And I always use it when I'm on foot or bike. And it's fun. But things change. So over time, the DOT, Department of Transportation, expanded their rail operations at that area. And they just decided unilaterally, the way they tend to do, that they're just going to destroy that trail to have people cut through. So there was a public meeting last week. I think it was at the urging of your administration, said, hey, before you do this, talk to the people there. And people who care about bikeable, walkable New Haven shut up and said, you're crazy, you can't do this. And they said, well, I'll tell the commission you said that, but it doesn't sound very good. What I loved about it, Mayor Hart, was the debate we had online about it, because it wasn't as predictable as you think. So there were people like Rob N. who said, it's pretty simple. DOT would rather have more people leapfrogging Connecticut from Boston to NYC and DC than have New Haveners gain access to their own waterfront. So there are a lot of us who feel, including your administration, that the DOT just doesn't understand New Haven, and we're not just the city of cars and highways. And we fight about everything. You're fighting about the design of the new train station garage because they want it just to be for cars, and you want it to be for buses and fitting into the neighborhood and economic development. There's a whole two sides to that one, and you're fighting about who runs the Union Station. And there are 16 lots they have in town that they've neglected, where we like them for places like community gardens, community green spaces, and that kind of stuff. And this becomes the latest thing, where they're from Venus and we're from Mars. But then there are other people who say, like Jonathan Hopkins, who's one of the big new urbanists in town. He's for everything like that. He says he thinks that the new cycle track you're creating on Sergeant Drive, with the DOT's help for bicycles, makes this not necessary because it's going to be easier to bike around. But then Markeisha Ricks, who covered it, said, but some of us walk. And it's not just about bicycles, yes, because they're going to extend the Farmington Canal Trail so that you can bike down Olive to Long Wharf. But not, some people don't bike, and it's really not safe walking there. That's a classic case when you go up Water Street, down to Brewery Street, of unwalkable streets.
Mm-hmm.
And that with the Vision Trail for her, as long as you feel safe and it's light out, is walking through there. But then another person said they haven't kept up that Vision Trail. Everyone says they care about the Vision Trail. You can't even tell it's a trail, really. It's overgrown. There's kind of rowdy stuff on either side. There's not good signage. They said no one's really known about it anymore, so why we care so much about Vision Trail? So this isn't so cut and dry. Although you just said no, you're not for them doing it. And a lot of people say the DOT basically just doesn't get it. We want to make our city more walkable, not less.
Well, I think the DOT doesn't really, I mean, your point's well taken. They don't understand New Haven. And it seems like, wouldn't they come to us first before they bulldoze it?
Yeah.
And, in all honesty, and try to figure out how we can work together on it. And they basically will tell us right after they've made a decision. They should have the decision with us first.
So,
And they don't.
So stay tuned for the saga of New Haven and DOT. What an interesting season that's been.
I know.
And I know it's not personal at all. I've seen the relations with the people. It's really a frame of mind. I mean, I think of the DOT as really the Department of Cars and Trucks.
Yeah, no, it feels that way. And honestly, when you think about what makes us important to the region is really the other types of transportation that we have, our trains, and our walkability. My understanding is we're the fourth most walkable city in America. And when you discuss this with the leaders at the Department of Transportation, they seem to think that this is really important until they actually implement policy.
But they can't stop us from biking because as of last week, it is now official.
Okay.
New Haven has approved a contract with a company called Smart Mobility LLC. I'd love someone to call themselves like Dumb Immobility LLC. Smart Mobility LLC is going to be creating a bike share system in New Haven. We went through the democratic process. We got some concerns addressed about the nature of the contract. 30 stations around town, 300 bikes. You sign up and you walk by, you just get a bike, you drop it at the other station you're going to, like New York City Bank.
It's pretty cool.
We're going to keep going. So the DOT can't keep us down.
That's right, they can't.
But it's getting even more interesting about the hunger fast at Yale.
Yeah.
People fasting who want a graduate student union. And President Salvi, so last week people getting pretty weak. Aaron Greenberg is a faster union leader. They got their first contract. They want Yale to negotiate. Yale saying, we want to keep appealing to the NLRB. The other side says you're doing that because Donald Trump's appointing people who will be against unions. They're saying there's a process. We have a fair argument that the way we did the election for graduate student union didn't make sense because there were so few graduate students voting. So these people are fasting, saying you got to negotiate. They're getting weak. Aaron Greenberg, a union leader, is also an alder, went to the board of alders in a wheelchair. One of the 8 fasters for medical reasons stopped. Someone took her place. That great structure is up there that's become like Occupy New Haven and kind of daring to take it down and look a liberal. A lot of this has become in the last week, I believe. Now you said last week you felt they should just negotiate. A lot of this has come down to what constitutes open dialogue and a willingness to talk. So to the union, they're saying Yale just won't negotiate. They lost an appeal to NLRB, they're doing another appeal. We had an official government-sanctioned election we won. Let's negotiate a first contract. What President Salovey said last week about the hunger strike, he said that he thinks threats of self-harm have no place in rational debate when an established dispute resolution process still exists. In other words, we have a way we can resolve this in LRB. It's not fair to say you're going to hurt yourself unless I do what you want. Respect for law and legal process, civil argument, persuasion. These are the hallmarks of airing and resolving disagreements at a university. Now, you hear this when someone goes on a hunger fast, let's say about conditions at a jail, right? So sometimes people would say, there's no way through your laws, because it's rigged, we're going to be heard and something inhumane is happening, so we're going to fast, like about conditions at a jail. Other people say that doesn't mean every time you don't agree with me, you say, hey, I'm going to stick a knife in me or starve unless you do what I want. Who do you think's right in this one?
Well, I think that one of the things that the FASTers have done is to get the attention of the people in our town at the university, and I think that they felt like they had to do something that would raise the level of concern. This fasting has absolutely done that. But I really think that at some point, as I said last week, that they have got to come together and have a conversation.
All right, it's going to be so interesting to watch as the people have. We have to go on the whole week with just water.
No.
It's kind of a.
Actually, when I was really
2 weeks
young,
tomorrow.
I
Yeah,
did it.
second.
I fasted for about 15, 16 days.
When did you do that?
I was in grad school too, but I was not trying to get a union. I was trying to lose weight, and I did go on a fast. It's not good for your body. Having had that experience, I can tell you, it's really not good.
Wow. Well, what is good is that Diane Brown, the Stetson Branch librarian, has gotten yet another award. This week she got last Friday from the Connecticut Library Association. It's hard to keep track of all her awards, but she's doing great over there.
She's doing a great job, and it's such an important institution in our community, and she makes us proud.
Great give, raised $1.3 million for not-for-profits. Not shabby.
That's not bad at all. Thank you for all the help that you
Oh, it was fun.
you gave.
It was fun. Got to hear everyone sing. 100th anniversary dinner for the NAACP this week. I have a feeling you're going to hit it.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Any thoughts on the NAACP's role right now in the age of Trump?
More important than ever. More important than ever.
My 2 cents on the Obamacare bill in Washington. There's a long discussion about pros and cons, and is it really just a way to transfer $1 trillion of tax breaks for rich people? We're having a conversation with someone I know who has a pre-existing condition, say, we always think we're safe in Connecticut because states, even under this bill, states that have Democratic governments can continue Obamacare and continue requiring that insurers cover pre-existing conditions and not charge older folks more than 3 times as much as you charge younger folks. But we now have a Senate that's divided equally between Republicans and Democrats. And we have a governor's race next year in which a lot of analysts believe Republicans have a real chance.
Right.
Could we be looking at a state that would be among those who, if this health care bill passes, puts a lot of people's health care at risk?
I'm hoping not. When I was in the General Assembly and we expanded Medicaid, even before the Affordable Care Act, we always got bipartisan support to do that. So I'm hoping that we would continue to have the kind of healthcare delivery system that we have here.
So you don't think if the Republicans took over in Hartford, we're in danger of joining the red states that limit people's health care?
No, because I think that there would probably still be a majority in the House and the Senate of Democrats. But beyond that, there, as I said before, there are many Republicans who support strong health care provisions in the Affordable Health Care Act.
Okay. So you're not all just Mayor Doom and Gloom.
No, not at all.
Are you not at all? That is my opinion too. Thanks so much for joining us today on Mayor Monday. Thanks to Mayor Tony Harr for brightening up the studio every Monday morning. Thanks to Bertram Moses and Devlin PC. Thanks to everyone who called in and Facebook Live with questions. Excellent questions. Thanks to Gateway Community College and Bertram Moses for providing financial support for today's show. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience performing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free from the CD Plea for Peace. This is Paul Bass reminding us all that we do know what it feels like to be free. We just have to book our flight. Book your flight and fly free with us all day and all night long here at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.